one of them here, a good, supporter of the museum. Paula, thank you so much for being here. It's a great group. Don't leave yet. All right, this is for you.
I'm really speechless, and usually I am not speechless, but I'm so taken, especially with this day, International Commemoration of the. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and privilege to introduce Andrea. As you could hear, her speech, her little presentation with a heavy German accent, although I have an accent too. I was born in Europe. But it's so sweet, in every time when I come in, when Andrea introduces me, I have the greatest pleasure to look at her. What happened to a young lady like Andrea? Andrea actually was born in Germany. This is what Germany looks like today, although we still have a lot of problems there. But the government, of course, is different. And to deny the Holocaust, they go to jail. They cannot deny the Holocaust. Everyone goes to jail if they do even try. Andrea is a young woman, among others, which are given in Germany, the young people like her, young men and young women, are given a choice, either to go to the army, right? Mm-hmm. Or to do something good in the world, what their descendants have done. The young people want to make a better world. A lot of these young people, ladies and gentlemen, choose to come to America or to other countries or to Israel and help our survivors. As all of you know, our survivors are old and passing away, and some of them live in the most horrifying conditions. They still are coping with the past. A lot of them have nobody. They are all alone. So people like Andrea choose those paths and they go to help. Andrea and many other young men and women from Germany, Austria, they come here and they stay for a few years. They become like our children. They live with us. They observe our holidays. They eat with us. They learn in those museums, in the Holocaust centers. They translate. And after a few years, when they go back, they become our ambassadors. They teach others. So this will never happen again. And for this, Andrea,
thank you.
I love you. She's been here a few years, and you are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me take a drink of water. I think I need a drink of water. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paula Marks-Bolton. I was born in Poland many years ago. I have been teaching the Holocaust for almost 30 years. Need I tell you how many people I have reached in all the years? The letters, the pictures, the great wishes, what I have been getting from you, the people, and from the young students I have been speaking to, are amazing. When I come in to the auditorium or wherever I am speaking, you, the people, inspire me no matter how bad I feel. Most of the time, I take a Tylenol in the morning if I need to speak to feel okay. But when I look at the young people's faces, to say, come here to learn what happened to one of the oldest people in the world. Imagine 6 million people, men in Europe, in the most vicious ways, just because we were Jews. All of you, I'm speaking to intelligent people here. All of you know what the Jewish people have contributed to the world and do so wherever they are born. The great scientists, the great scholars, the great professors, writers. In every faith, I don't need to tell you, you know already. This was almost killed off in Europe. And it's so important that we must continue to teach love and kindness. This is what I have been teaching for the past almost 30 years. Love and kindness to all people. It should never make any difference what nationality, what religion, or what color skin a person is. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all connected. We are all God's children. Together, I say, we will make a better world. I am sure for all the probably millions of people I have reached. In the beginning, in the early years, I used to speak 3-4 times a week. Now, in our dwindling years, I speak once or twice a week. You know, most of our survivors are dying out. We are all old, and some of us are sick and struggling. But the message must be learned because you, the wonderful people who come here, you will continue teaching after we are gone. A very few years from now, there probably will be no survivor left. But for the people I speak, you will continue to teach others. So this will never happen again. As I always say, I came from a loving family, just like all of you, but not for long. After the Nazis invaded Poland, that's where I was born, in Poland. I had loving parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins. Most of all, I had 3 older brothers. I was the youngest of the family. I was 13 years old when the Nazis invaded Poland. 2 of my brothers were married. My oldest brother had 2 small children, a little boy, 5.5, a little girl, 2.5, but not for long. He lived in the same city where we did. My second brother was married shortly before the war started, and he lived in another city, in Lodz, actually, with his young wife. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Nazis started to give out the decrees to the Jewish people, he managed to run away to Russia. His wife didn't want to go. She said, "You go. If it's going to be okay, I will follow you." She never made it. She perished with the 6 million others. But he was the only one to survive my family. He came back from Russia after the war and asked our Polish neighbors if anybody returned. When they told him nobody did, he was heartbroken. He settled in a distant city and registered to go to Israel. At that time, we did not know about each other. I will tell you to the end of my story how I met my brother, through whom and where. Ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, the Nazi regime is giving out orders to the Jewish people to wear a yellow Star of David. Young and old had to wear the Star of David. Imagine, I always say that, if we would not wear that Star of David, how could they possibly tell who is Jewish, who is not? Certainly, Jewish people look the same as everyone else. Unfortunately, I must tell you, we did have a lot of collaborators. We did. But in the same breath, I'm saying collaborators, I want you all to be proud of what I'm just going to say next. We did have a lot of outstanding Christian people as well. Not enough, but we did have Christian people who helped. I will tell you to the end of my story. Can everybody hear me in the back? What they have done. In the meantime, 6 young boys about 15, 16 years old, defied the orders, and they didn't want to put on the Star of David. They were rounded up by the Gestapo and their collaborators. They were beaten into a big square. They uprooted all the Jewish people from my town, mothers, fathers, and children, and they beat us out from our homes to march faster and faster. When we came down on the street, there were so many people waiting already for us. We had to all march into a big square. What we have witnessed was something horrifying. 6 human beings, 6 young boys, 15, 16 years old, on gallows with ropes around their necks. What have they done to deserve this? Why? The cries of the people, the prayers to God, let them go. People were screaming, let them go, they have done nothing. They were beating the people to look upright. Elder people tried to collect money. They took all the money they had from their pockets. They took off their wedding bands and watches. They thought this they might be able to bribe the Nazis from hanging them. But ladies and gentlemen, they couldn't. They took all the loot collected and hung him in front of our eyes. Can you imagine how hard it is for a survivor to speak about this? There's only survivors who can speak about this. You know, most of the time, in groups of people, grandchildren and great-grandchildren are sitting in the back. And after my presentation, They come over and tell me and cry on my shoulder, and they say, Paula, my grandfather or grandmother passed away. They never told us the whole story. Never give up. We must have you. Teach others so this will not happen again. A lot of our people go to their graves and never tell the whole story. But the people who can, we have an obligation. We must teach others so that what happened to our lives, we cannot change anymore. We cannot bring back our loved ones, but I can make it better for you so you will know what happened. You will prevent it from happening again to any human being, no matter what nationality, what religion, or what color skin a person is. We are all brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, after this ordeal, after the hanging, they warned us and they were beating the people. If you don't obey orders, they said, this is what's going to happen to you. They sent us back to our homes, but not for long. The first ones from my immediate family who were taken out was my oldest and my youngest brother. My oldest brother's name was Moshe. My youngest brother's name was Shemek. The one who ran away to Russia, his name was Shmerek. They were beaten on filthy trucks every few days when they attacked the Jewish homes and took out young men and boys. They took them away on filthy open trucks. We didn't know where they were taking them. Consequently, mothers, fathers, and children were running after those trucks where their loved ones were. I was behind the truck where my two brothers were. Ladies and gentlemen, I cried my heart out and I screamed and I called their names. I didn't see Moshe. He was punched down with so many others on that open, filthy truck. But as they were pulling away, Shemek got up as high as he could and waved to me like this and screamed out as loud as he could, Paula, don't worry, I will be back. Ladies and gentlemen, Shemek was one of the best students in school. He was only 2.5 years older than I was. He had so much hope what he was going to become had he lived a normal life. In every presentation, can you imagine, for so many years, I have been repeating my story. He always was teaching me to make sure I knew my lesson. When the teacher calls me to the blackboard, I know what I'm talking about. I did okay, but I must tell you, I did not do as well as my brother. When I come to the point and I say they didn't come back, I get a skip in my heart in every presentation. How can I forget what I loved, what I lost? But that's what happened. And by nature, I am a cheerful person. I always smile. I always say hello to everybody. I care for people. It doesn't mean that my life is perfect, but I choose to live a happy life to project on my children for future generations when I come in contact with anybody, to make people feel well, because I know how we felt in the darkest hours, and to be left orphaned at 13. I had nobody, not anybody to put an arm around my shoulder and say, I love you. Ladies and gentlemen, the worst years are yet to come. They didn't come back. When they came for us, I was with my parents. We hear the shouts and screams, alle Juden raus, all Jews out. We had to get out from our homes with just the clothes on our backs. We could take nothing with us. When we came down on the street, there were so many people waiting already for us. Among those people were a lot of religious people with beards, black garb, and black hats. And I always say, these people are a very learned, religious people. They always care about other people. They always help the ones who cannot help themselves. They always teach the scriptures. They make sure these burials are being taken care of the right way. And I always say, perhaps, in this beautiful country of ours, the United States of America, I say to the students I speak for, perhaps you have such neighbors, religious neighbors. So you know already what kind of people they are. If you are in trouble, they would give their shirt off their back to help you. They would never ask you, are you Jewish or not? They will do whatever they can to help you. And this was almost killed off in Europe. Again, thank God some of us survived. And we can teach you so this will not happen again. They are ordering us to march. And as we are marching, they are pulling the beards from these poor men's chins. They are beating them all over their bodies, their heads. They are cutting them with scissors and knives, those beards. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I must tell you, there were people looking on as we were marching. But nobody said anything. And that's what I'm talking about. Wherever we see injustice, we must help the ones who cannot help themselves. We must speak up for every human being, wherever they are in justice, no matter what religion or nationality. We must make a better world so we can live all in peace and love and kindness. We must reach out to that stranger. We were all strangers somewhere, sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, they marched us into a big school. Actually, it was the school where I attended, and all my brothers did. They pushed us and filled the capacity to each classroom. There were no benches, no chairs, no lights, nothing. Empty rooms. Mothers, fathers, and children huddling on the floor next to one another. Fathers praying to God to help us. Children screaming their hearts out. They are so afraid. They are crying so loud. Mothers shushing them to be quiet. A little while into this commotion, it was completely dark. Somebody opens the door, a man in a Gestapo uniform. My mother, like she would see an angel, she runs over to him and she calls his name. His name was Hans. Actually, I never heard his name, Hans, when I was a kid. Ladies and gentlemen, she begs him. She says, Hans, please take out my little girl. I'm 13 years old. There were lots of 13-year-olds and younger and older in that room. She begs him to take me out. He looks at her in a very stern voice and he answers her, I don't know you, and slammed the door in her face. I started to cry and begged both of my parents not to make any scenes. I don't want to be taken out. When I speak to students, to the younger groups especially, I say, can you imagine yourselves to be taken out from the loving arms of your parents? What are we going to do without our parents? But ladies and gentlemen, it was not to be. A little while into this commotion, it was completely dark. Somebody opens the door again, and from all these people in that room, reaches for my arm and pulled me out and literally threw me across the hall into another classroom with screaming, crying children without their parents. We were orphans already. We never saw our parents again. But in all the years I have been lecturing about the Holocaust, I have been thinking, who took me out? I didn't see who it was. Who saved my life? I cannot help but thinking of my neighbor. It is a possibility. It is a possibility. When he told my mother he did not know her, he must have had a complete change of heart. And he probably thought to himself, I know the Reichmanns. My maiden name was Reichmann. I know Paula. She's always in my house. My kids aren't theirs. We ate together. We did our homework together with his kids. What happened to him? The uniform, the Nazi uniform gave them the power. As worse they acted, as worse they treated the people, as better they were taken, awarded. Ladies and gentlemen, although I did not see who saved my life, but in all almost 30 years I have been speaking, I give the benefit of the doubt to my neighbor. I hope it was my neighbor who saved my life. Look, if he did what I have been doing to make a better world, I hope it was him, because I really cannot think of anybody who I knew at that young age who would have done that. As I said, I was orphaned already. We never saw our parents again. At about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, they took all the children out from that room and they marched us into a ghetto. Ghettos, ladies and gentlemen, were horrifying places for the Jewish people. They stuck us in, most of us could take nothing with us from our homes. They stuck us in the slums areas where we had to share little rooms with so many others. They were people coming and going. They never came back. We had to work on forced labor in different capacities for the Nazi regime for a little meager ration. So many diseases, so many sicknesses, so many malnutritions. If you were Jewish under the Nazi regime, you had no right to live. Can you imagine the psychology of, actually, I say, the German people were illiterate people, especially at that time. How could they have hardened their heart and soul towards one of the oldest people in the world? I still have a problem with it. But what I am telling you today, ladies and gentlemen, is just something, just a little bit of my life and what I have lived and what I have witnessed with my own eyes. The worst years are yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Poland had the most ghettos in Europe. The biggest ghetto in Poland was Warsaw. And I'm sure a lot of you know about the Warsaw Uprising. And if you don't, look it up in the libraries, what happened in the Warsaw Uprising. There was resistance, but the Nazis were so much stronger, and they burned down the Warsaw Ghetto to the end. Thank God a few survived. Ladies and gentlemen, the second biggest ghetto in Poland was Lodz. I lived with my family 24 kilometers from Lodz. The city's name was Ozorków. After a short time in that ghetto, they closed that smaller ghetto and they sent us away to the bigger ones. I was sent with hundreds of young people to the Lodz ghetto. I always say I was lucky. I was lucky I was taken in by a kind young couple. Before the war, the husband was a principal in a school. His wife was a teacher. His wife had a sister. I always tell that story. Her name was Ruta. I had 3 brothers. I didn't have a sister. Ruta was a few years older than I was. She became the sister I never had. She was loving and kind. She always helped me to get through the day. We had to work in different capacities and forced labor in those ghettos for the Nazi regime. I worked in a straw factory, in a shoe factory, in a clothes factory. They rotated us every few months to different facilities. We worked in a coat factory where we made raincoats for the Nazis. You had to do it, otherwise they would kill you. They gave us a ration once a week, which consisted of meager staple foods. No fruits, no vegetables. Most people ate up the ration in 1 or 2 days. Can you imagine what they gave us? We were able to eat up a ration for a week in 1 or 2 days. What are we going to do for the rest of the week? We were scavenging for all kinds of stuff, even peels from potatoes. And I always tell the people we chopped it up and we fried them on a frying pan with a few drops of oil, and we called them potato pancakes. And I always say they didn't taste like potato pancakes, but it was something to fill our stomach So it will be okay to the end of the week when we get the next ration. And this went on in those ghettos for years. Either they send you away, to a concentration camp and killed you there. There was no win if you were Jewish. Ladies and gentlemen, there was so much death. So many people died in the ghettos before they were sent away to concentration camps, of starvation, of diseases. When they came for us, I was indeed with Ruta, my friend. We hear the shouts and screams to get out, and we do. At this time, some people grabbed little belongings. I had nothing on me, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing what I had, which I repeat in every presentation for almost 30 years, was a little picture of my mother. I still dream about this little picture of my mother after all these years. You see, when we were marching, I was marching with my parents to that school when I told you before. I told you we could take nothing with us. But by sheer chance, my mother happened to have had a little picture of herself in her pocket. And as we were marching and being beaten to march faster and faster, evidently she knew we are going to be divided. She took out that little picture from her pocket, stuck it in mine, something to remember her by. How did I remember my mother? Every night when I shared a little spot on the floor with Ruta, I had that picture in front of my eyes, and I cried my heart out. What I would have given then to see her face again. My parents, they were young. My father must have been about 50, in the early 50s. My mother must have been in the late 40s, maybe 50, I am not sure. There were so many people. There were so many people who were killed, 6 million. It's mind-boggling. We cannot even comprehend the amount of people, like one of our biggest states of people. Everyone was killed off. An empty state. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the only thing what I had with me. They are pushing us in now to cattle cars. Did this group go through already? No, you will see those cattle cars. Please, if you can, if you possibly can, after my presentation, put in your heads and close your eyes and think of the words I have told you of my story. What went on inside, ladies and gentlemen, is the most horrifying thing people can do to others. They are pushing men, women, and children into each compartment and beating us to settle in. How can we settle in? In each compartment, there is no bread or water or toilet. There is a bucket somewhere in the corner. What went on inside is unspeakable. We were on top of each other for hours and hours. We are standing there. They padlock those doors. They padlock those doors, yes. We are still standing there. In each compartment, I am not quite sure how many people they were. but I would assume about close to 90 people. You can imagine what went on inside. The cries of the people, the prayers to God. When they finally started to move, we were riding and stopping for days and nights, but they never opened up those doors. Ladies and gentlemen, so many people suffocated. We were laying among the dead. But they finally stopped for good. They opened up the doors and announced, "We arrived to Auschwitz." Frankly, as a kid, I never knew about Auschwitz, a huge concentration camp. People I see, they look like from outer space, women, shaven heads, prison little dresses, so many barefoot, and they scream out to the new arrivals, "My God," in different languages, "My God, where are you coming from? It's sheer hell here." The different languages came from different countries. Wherever the Nazi regime conquered a country in Europe, I would say 80% of the Jewish people had to go through Auschwitz, and most of them lost their lives there. I see barracks, I see guards, I see guards with vicious dogs. What's going on here? What happened here? What is happening to our lives? We say, we cry. We see high-pitched guards looking over the camp, ready to shoot if somebody moves the wrong way. I must tell you a little bit about Auschwitz, what went on there. Today is International Commemoration of Auschwitz, when it was liberated the 27th of January. Ladies and gentlemen, they experimented on our lives. They cut the flesh of our people without anesthetic. They experimented on old, on disabled, on gypsies, on babies, on pregnant women, on homosexuals. And the crematoriums were burning our people day and night. You could smell the flesh of the human flesh. Why? There are no answers. In front of my compartment stood a white uniformed gentleman. His name was Dr. Mengele, the butcher of Auschwitz. He and his honchos murdered millions of people. First, he is standing erect and he's ordering the boys and the men to get out first. They took them away. We never saw them again. To the women, to the girls, he raises his arm like I'm doing just now and points with his thumb. We have to get out from each compartment as fast as humanly possible. All the men said as we are walking out from our compartments, I'm still with my friend Ruta. She's right behind me. All he said was, rechts, links, rechts, links, right, left, right, left. I went with Ruta to the right. We didn't know which was the good way or the bad way. We had to go wherever they told us. Otherwise, they would kill us on the spot. The people who went to the right were told we are going to have showers. Ladies and gentlemen, they marched us into the bathhouses. The first thing what I noticed when I walked in with my group was piles of human hair, piles of shoes, piles of clothes, and piles of gold. Yes, gold. Gold was collected day and night to help the Nazi war machine. Now, mind you, the gold, what was collected from the Jewish people as we came to Auschwitz, consisted of wedding bands, bracelets, gold watches. I don't want to tell you what happened to people who had gold partials in their mouth. I used to speak about that. I'm not speaking about it anymore. You can just imagine what they have done to those people. Tons of gold was collected. Day and night, people came through Auschwitz. The Nazis were very well organized. When the piles were big enough, the guards took some of them away, all through the day, because people came day and night through Auschwitz. They took them away, and the new arrivals had to follow, had to do like they showed you, to put on those smaller piles. And when they got big enough, they took away again, and again, all day long and all night long. Ladies and gentlemen, they are asking me what I'm holding. I'm holding something in my fist. The guards, first of all, ordered us, young women, to strip and put all of our belongings on those piles. And we do. We are all naked now. They proceed to shave us. They shaved us everywhere like this. They disinfected us with smelly solutions and big brushes everywhere. Most girls came from the ghettos with long hair. We looked like lost sheep. We looked at each other. What happened to us? Why? There were no answers. Ladies and gentlemen, I am holding that little picture of my mother, which I did not want to give up in Auschwitz. I speak about it in every presentation. It still bothers me. I'm holding it so tight in my fist. It's a small picture. They are accusing me. I'm hiding some gold, maybe diamonds. Open your fist. I knew if I open my fist, they will take it away. I told them I have a little picture of my mother. They get a hold of my fist and hold it tight. Open your fist. And they are beating me all over my back and my body and my head. I open my fist and I say, I told you, it's just a little picture of my mother. Let me through. It will hurt nobody. I closed my fist again. But ladies and gentlemen, they were stronger. They were beating me so hard and holding my fist. And the picture fell to the floor with a face up. I tell that story in every presentation. When I looked down, I cried bitterly. And I saw my mother's eyes staring back at me and telling me, Paula, walk away, you're gonna be okay. She was not there to say that. but in my heart she was. You know, sometimes in the audience, I have clergy or just lay people, just like all of us. And I say, I feel like asking other people, was she there? Was she there? And what I get the answers is, Paula, your mother was there in spirit. She was there in spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, I tried to retrieve it, but they stepped on it and pushed me in with the other girls, and we had showers. But remember, I told you they were people who were not as lucky as our group. All the people who went to the left perished in the crematoriums in Auschwitz. After the showers, we received a pair of wooden shoes, no socks, a little prison dress, no underwear. We looked at each other and we cried out, what happened to our lives? We looked like lost sheep. They marched us in to filthy barracks, freezing barracks. On the floor, we were huddling next to one another, and they preached to us, we will never survive Auschwitz. This is your last step. Can you imagine intelligent people talking to others like that? Ladies and gentlemen, for some reason, the Gestapo derived pleasures to see naked girls. Every few hours, they came to the barracks. They ordered us to get undressed and get out. They need to count us. They were counting us all the time, like we were going to run away. If you go near a fence, you were electrocuted or killed right on the spot. There was nowhere to run. Ladies and gentlemen, we had to take off our clothes. And they were counting the girls. I was still with Ruta. They were pulling away the pretty girls. We had so many beautiful girls. They pulled away Ruta. We were holding our hands and crying out and swaying back and forth. I heard Ruta screaming, Paula, don't leave me. And I called Ruta, don't leave me. It's not an easy story. It's not an easy story. But we must tell it. I hold so much back, what I don't want to tell you, what I cannot. Ladies and gentlemen, Ruta was pulled away with so many other beautiful girls. After this ordeal, I was not too long in Auschwitz. They sent us away to another camp. The name of the camp was Ravensbrück. I'm sure some of you writers must have been here. We were honored here, the women of Ravensbrück. This must have been, Sarah, about 7 years ago. 7 years ago or so. They were 5 women who survived Ravensbrück. Does it tell you something? As I'm speaking, there's only one left. There were thousands of people like yourselves coming to witness this exhibit. This is the most finest, wonderful Holocaust center. It's a teaching center here where we have so many learned people, teachers and professors, scholars who research so we can teach others. So this will never happen again. Ladies and gentlemen, what went on in Ravensbrück is unspeakable. What I have witnessed with my own eyes, what they have done to people. And some things what I endured as a young girl myself. I cannot speak about it for the past 2 years or 3 years. I just abbreviate it. And you can think for yourself how human beings can be cruel to others is really indeed unspeakable. The good part was that I wasn't there too long. They sent us away after a short time, a few hundred girls, to another camp. The name of the camp, ladies and gentlemen, was Milhausen, deeper and deeper into Germany. A few hundred of us opened up a brand new camp. They actually gave each person a little blanket to put around our shoulders. If the weather was bad, we could take it over our shoulders as we were marching for hours through the forest into ammunition factories. That's where we worked, in ammunition factories. They gave us in the morning, early in the morning, about 6 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, a little coffee, a cup of coffee, and a piece of bread. When we came back in the evening from work after marching for hours, they gave us a little soup and a piece of bread. And I always say, if you found a piece of potato in that soup, you considered yourself lucky. But it was something. But ladies and gentlemen, most what I remember about Milhausen is my German foreman. My German foreman was a grandfather. He was the kindest German I have met under the Nazi regime. He always managed to stop at my station and talk to me. He brought me as often as he could a piece of bread or some rags to put around my feet. We had no socks. He was the kindest person. He told me about his family. I told him about mine. But he also made sure when he visited with me, just the guards, they were guards all over the factory. Just the guards are far away, so he can stop and talk to me. Ladies and gentlemen, he had a granddaughter. Her name was Paula, the same as mine. In German, it's Paula. She was about my age. He told me about her, and I cried. I raised my head to him and I said, but your little Paula is healthy and beautiful. Look at me. And he answered to me, you are beautiful as well. He was so inspiring. The only regret I have in all the years, I never asked him his name. But I say to the people I speak for, one person can make such an impact on one's life with kindness, with exceptional being there for you. One person, you don't even have to know their names. In all the years I have been speaking, ladies and gentlemen, I remember my wonderful human being, my foreman, my German foreman. One day he came to me and he said, Paula, the war is coming to an end any time now. Do whatever you can to survive. They have killed millions of Jewish people and millions of children. Do whatever you can to survive, and maybe you will be lucky enough to find somebody from your family. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope his soul is in heaven. You see, he did not see a little Jewish person in front of him. What he has seen in front of him was a human being. And that's what I'm talking about. This we must reach out to every human being, no matter what nationality, what religion, or what color skin a person is. We are all connected. We are all God's children. We are all brothers and sisters. The war is indeed coming to an end now. This is almost 5 years. They are closing all the concentration camps. They are marching us out under guard. Where we are going, we don't know. Without bread, without water, for days and nights, we are marching. We cannot endure so many people fall to their death. Men were not together with women in concentration camps, at least not where I was. We see far on the horizon men walking from different directions, women from different directions. We are somewhere between. They are falling to their deaths. When somebody fell down and another person, a friend or a stranger, fell over to help, the guards killed the one who fell. And sometimes they ordered the second person, get up. Either she or he couldn't get up anymore or didn't want to live anymore. They killed the one who fell and the one who tried to help. And the rest of us have to keep on marching under guard. We are finally marching into the last camp. The name of the camp, ladies and gentlemen, was Bergen-Belsen. As you can see, in my young years, I traveled a lot with the wrong people in the wrong times. When I walked into Bergen-Belsen with my small group, again I couldn't believe my eyes. Scattered, decayed bodies all over Bergen-Belsen. Filthy barracks. There is no bread, no water. I see guards, women, vicious guards, are beating the skeletons who can still walk. They are falling down. Human waste ditches all over Bergen-Belsen. A crazy house. What happened here? Ladies and gentlemen, from all these people who just walked in, they are picking 40 girls. Let me take a drink of water. It's getting harder and harder. Excuse me. I do the best I can. Ladies and gentlemen, from all these people, they are picking 40 girls. I am among the 40 girls to be picked. We thought they're going to kill us, but no, they didn't. They are sending us into a kitchen to peel potatoes. Now imagine, we haven't eaten for days and nights. We are starving. We stuff our mouths with the raw peels and potatoes. We swallow it as fast as we can. We are devastated. We are so hungry. As soon as they see us do that, They take us all out from the kitchen. Remember, we have no underwear. We have to bend over. We receive 25 leather straps for eating a piece of raw peel or potato. And I say, didn't they love somebody? Didn't somebody love them? I am sure they were capable of loving and being loved in return. But again, they hardened their heart and soul towards one of the oldest people in the world. The beatings continued. There are some people they cannot endure, and they put a piece of potato or peel again in their mouth. They take them out, one for all and all for one. They take us all out, and we endure again and again the beatings. At this time, we have typhoid, we have dysentery, we have other diseases. We have high temperature. This is now over 5 years. What is going to happen to our life? We'll never get out from here. We look out the windows and we see beautiful young soldiers on jeeps. We pray to God, please stop here. We are still alive. Bear this wonderful moment of liberation. Right in front of our kitchen, young, beautiful soldiers are jumping off their jeeps and storming into the kitchen and screaming out with joy, "You are free! You are liberated!" We know what they are saying, but ladies and gentlemen, we are so sick. We cannot get up on our own. Instead, we fall to the ground. We reach for the boots of the soldiers. We hold them tight. We didn't let them go. We didn't want to let them go. We raise our heads to thank them. Ladies and gentlemen, they see what's going on. They did whatever they could to help us. They fed us. They medicated us. Some pitched little makeshift hospitals. But for so many, it was too late. So many died even after liberation. As you will go through with your docents and teachers and leaders today, this very important Holocaust Teaching Center, you will see for yourselves bodies being bulldozed into mass graves. And you will say to yourself, who were those people? Those people were our people who did not survive. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised you about the Christian people all over Europe. We didn't have enough, but we had a lot of wonderful Christian people all over Europe. In every Holocaust centers, there are walls with names inscribed. Their names are from ordinary people, just like all of us, who risked their lives to hide a Jewish child or a Jewish family. Those people, their names will be shining forever for people like yourselves to read them, to see what ordinary people can do. And ladies and gentlemen, we call them the righteous Christians. I promised you, by the way, we bring those people from wherever they are in Europe. If they are not alive, we bring their children or grandchildren to honor them. I also promised you about my brother who escaped to Russia, the only one from my family. I must tell you, my family consisted of 60-some people. My mother came from a big family, so did my dad. They were uncles and cousins and aunts and grandparents. They were 60-some people who were murdered. My brother, after the war, I told you in the beginning, he came back to Poland and asked our Polish neighbors if anybody came back. They told him nobody returned. He was heartbroken. He settled in a distant city and registered to go to Israel. At that time, we did not know about each other. But as children, we remembered our parents told us we have family in Detroit, in the United States. We didn't know exactly where. Through the Red Cross and Jewish seeking organizations, I found my family in Detroit. Probably every one of you will remember the Botsford Hospital. One of the founders, Alan Ziegler, was my first cousin. His father was my uncle, my mother's brother. My mother also had a sister. Her name was Jenny Meisner. Now, these two people were brother and sister. In the turn of the century, when your descendants came to America or to other good countries to make a better living for their families, that's where my family came from Europe to the United States of America. We remember that. I remember that. This my mother wrote, corresponded with her family. And so did my brother. My brother was 12 and a half years older than I was. We were connected through those challenges, what we had. I wrote a letter to my uncle and aunt, and so did my brother Shmerel, the one who escaped to Russia. They connected us and they told us we are alive. I was married already after the war, a year later. They were only young people left. We were young. There were no mothers or fathers or grandparents. We lived in DP camps, displaced people's camps, when we could not find anybody. Some people found a cousin or a brother or a sister, very rare. No grandparents, no parents. So we lived in like a kibbutz, like a hostel. We had a rabbi, we had teachers coming in, we learned new languages, we registered to go to the countries like Australia. America was the most, preferred country to come. We had to wait for quotas. And Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, we got married there. We came to America in 1949. I could be all of your mother. I'm old, ladies and gentlemen. You all could be my children. And we worked hard. I was reunited. We had two beautiful daughters in America. We gave them all the education they wanted. The end is not a pretty one. My husband died of pancreatic cancer after 43 years being married. I was a widow for 4 years, and I was fixed up. You know, people like to fix you up always. But I met a man, a wonderful man. His name was Philip Bolton. He was born actually in Detroit. He was a pharmacist, a widower. He had a wonderful family. We got married. We were actually happily married. We never ceased to think and talk about our loved ones, what we have loved and lost. As human beings, I say, you can love another human being. You never forget the one you loved and lost. But as human being, we can love somebody else as well. Phil passed away 9 years ago of leukemia and congestive heart failure. And here I go on speaking with the most wonderful memories of two wonderful, wonderful husbands. I am a grandmother, a great-grandmother. I have only one granddaughter. Imagine, I would have loved to have many, but I have one granddaughter. And I have two little great-grandchildren, boys. Actually, my granddaughter is expecting any day a little girl. She is a sergeant in the United States Army. Can you imagine that? Giving back to the beautiful country of ours, love and understanding. I will repeat, together we will make a better world. You are great people who come here to learn what happened in our lives. I hope I will have a few more years to be able to teach the Holocaust. So this will never happen again. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as I said about the people who helped us in Europe, the Christian people, we called them the righteous Christians. And as I always close my presentation and say, you are the righteous as well, who come here to learn what happened to our lives. And as I always say, may God bless you, and may God keep you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. I love this country. I love the United States of America and all the people. I love you all. Thank you. Write a letter if you can to the Holocaust Center and tell them what you thought of my presentation. If you don't remember my name, say Paula, the lady with a hat. I always wear a hat. Hey, Irv, come on here. Here's one exceptional, wonderful docent, which I have worked for so many years. Our docents actually become like our own families. Irv Barron, I am so happy to see you. Who? Andrea.
Not good. Not good, Paul. I just want to say something. I've got the group. Where's Schoolcraft? Okay, I'm going to take you through.